the reason that somebody can excel on screen is because they understand how to separate themselves. The reason that somebody can excel in business is because they separate themselves for the right reasons, where people see supreme value in that entity versus all of the other ones that may exist in that marketplace. So value simply being blend in so that you can get along with everybody else. I think that's one of those opportunities where I more or less rejected that in a lot of ways, personally.
Hello, Kyle. It's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
Elijah, thank you for having me. I'm doing splendidly. Got a beautiful sunny day here.
Awesome. I love that. And I'm quite excited to have you on the show today, Kyle, for some reasons. Firstly, okay, I want to thank you first, and I do this so often to the point where it has become my anthem. So, firstly, I want to say thank you so very much, Kyle, for investing in yourself. You see, you are on this platform right now because you did invest that in yourself. And oftentimes, my man, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. You see, Kyle, some couple of months back, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, Kyle, there was this very tall, unattractive mango tree. And I used the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it, and the leaves were all dry. So I just walked past it and I went my way. But you see, Kyle, just recently I was on that same road, and this time around, a lot's changed about the mango tree, you see. The mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance, and immediately I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did, and it wowed me. Because now the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it, beautiful green leaves and healthy branches, and not just mangoes now, Kyle. I'm talking about ripe mangoes. It was such a lovely experience that day, and I was so excited. Here is my point. The fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing Kyle that you are today, that alone has made it impossible for me to skip you. And that's why you got the request from me to be on the show, because I was attracted to the fruit of all that you're doing, your philosophies, your journey, the impact your work is having, and how you're offering your solutions. This stuff's so beautiful. And just before I sent you that request, my man, I said to myself, I've got to benefit from these beautiful things Kyle is doing. And not only me now, because I don't want to be selfish, and even with the audience. And here we had a day with the amazing Kyle. So thank you so very much for doing that yourself. And secondly, thank you for being here. I truly appreciate you, my man. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Not only do you have the voice for podcasting, but you're quite the storyteller too.
Thank you so much, my man. So let's get started, Kyle. You see, I am quite excited to have you on the show today for some reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to transition from a terrible situation to that of a beautiful one, Kyle, I believe it takes the application of knowledge, quality information. And you see, my man, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking. Why? Because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very important to me and even to the listeners. And the second reason why I'm excited to have the incredible Kyle on the show is for the sake of the audience. You see, my man, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got lots of information flying out there. So these folks trust me for quality, eye-opening, and very important information, of which I am totally convinced, Kyle, that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So for that reason, my man, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or your professional journey, because right now we are so curious. We want to know how Kyle got here. Then afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Kyle, over to you.
Beautiful. What a setup right there. So, generally speaking, I like to think that I'm on this earth quite simply to serve. And, that comes in myriad different forms, functions, how one gets the message out there. These days I'm a marketing coach, actor, voice artist. Acting can be trivialized, I think, in some ways until you think about it like philanthropy. Acting is a great platform. It is a very wide platform. So if there is philanthropy, a mission, a message, then perhaps the actor can be intentional about the projects that he gets involved with. Perhaps the marketing coach can help to remove barriers for these makers, the individuals that will inevitably traverse the rough path that is laden with all the sand that you've referenced, Elisha. And the difficulty is figuring out what sand is going to be best to pave my dwelling with. Where do I find the information that is succinct, accurate, and right for me? So generally speaking, that's just the way that I have found any information is oftentimes through failure and, trying to discern what works, what doesn't, trial and error in a lot of ways. But generally speaking, with service, I believe that, if I can rise to the occasion, then hopefully I can inspire a couple people to do just the same.
Beautiful. That's a great philosophy. I love that. I love that. It's very interesting when one becomes a continuous learner. And I got that. So there is this particular stuff I'm so curious about. What does anarchy mean to you in the context of entrepreneurship?
I love that question. And thank you for asking. I know that anarchy itself is a crazy word. And that is the name of my marketing coaching practice. Now, the idea behind anarchy is that anarchy itself, I think by dictionary definition, just simply means like, destroy everything and, make it just complete and utter chaos. Now, anarchy in my vernacular is quite simply, it's a tool to inspire innovation. What it means in my world is if you can think about and re-engineer something in a different way, still be tactical, strategic about how you do that. When you apply anarchy, that helps to separate and differentiate yourself from the rest of the marketplace. If we're speaking about business, but on a personal level, how does one perhaps stand out in the room that they are in? How does one maintain attention as they're speaking to a group of people? So this is something that can be applied in numerous different situations where I believe very personally that a little bit of anarchy is perhaps the medicine that maybe some of us need to apply in some occasion. But in order to get there, it takes an objective visualization of whatever the idea, whatever the concept is. And once you can objectively look at it, okay, we understand, generally speaking, the rules, whether we're speaking in business or society. So, all right, well, now we understand the rules. Then and only then can we kind of consider bending a few of these so that we can stand out for the right reasons.
Objective visualization. I got that. I got that. So, what is one rule you've challenged that changed everything for you?
Well, first off, what an extraordinary question. One rule that you've challenged that changed everything. For any listeners, I would encourage you, please think about that for yourself. That is such a wonderful question. I even have to think about that myself too. No questions were fed to me ahead of time, so I got to think about this one. I think in a lot of ways it is. Yes.
Go on, please.
In a lot of ways, there is this general concept of simply not needing to blend in with the rest. I'm not saying that I've done an extraordinary job of it throughout the years, but for whatever reason, I've always been intrigued by the individuals that did not need to go with the status quo. And I think that that is probably fairly abundantly clear in how I approach things with all things anarchy for a day. But generally speaking, The reason that somebody can excel on screen is because they understand how to separate themselves. The reason that somebody can excel in business is because they separate themselves for the right reasons, where people see supreme value in that entity versus all of the other ones that may exist in that marketplace. So the value simply being blend in so that you can get along with everybody else. I think that's one of those opportunities where I more or less rejected that in a lot of ways, personally. Can I ask you that same question?
Awesome, and I got that. You see, it's beautiful how you are explaining this stuff. Okay, can you say that again?
Can I ask you that same question? What is a rule that you've challenged?
Beautiful, beautiful. There are a lot, my man, a lot. Okay, let's start from the societal expectation that there is a particular way you've got to behave, a particular protocol you've got to follow. You living up to the societal standard. Like chasing impression and all of these things that they call valuable stuffs. Valuing material things far more than all of this internal component like kindness, love, patience. For instance, now, if I see someone who is so good at demonstrating patience, and I see someone who's got so much luxury, he's got so much wealth, and he doesn't have a pinch of patience, the one who master patience, I'm going to value that person more. But according to the society, sorry, man, according to the society, and sorry, listeners, according to the society, it is the total opposite. The one who's got the most wealth and all of those luxurious stuffs, they give that value to. And this ones that's got patience and it doesn't really have anything, they look less of it. So that one, nah, 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 never. And so many, all of the stuffs with the family stuffs too, that you have to break the bank to please people, and all of those things. I fought against it, and even my family can testify. I don't like to follow societal norms and expectations, nah, because many of those things are really, really wrong. I tell you, man. Did I answer your question?
That is a very viable answer. Have you studied Buddhism? It sounds like you're kind of in line with a bit of that mentality.
Oh, no, no, no. Yeah, but I'm a follower of a great leader, Jesus.
That much I know. One can follow Jesus and also study others. So, point of curiosity.
Yeah. Mm. Okay, my man, let's proceed. So let's get personal a bit, all right? So how is your daily training routine like? How does it look?
Training, are you talking about like health and fitness journey?
Yeah, yeah, fitness. I see you quite.
Uh, thank you. Um, I have been trying to take care of myself for a number of years. It began probably most realistically about 4.5 years ago when I stopped drinking and more or less just became sober across the board. So I don't do drugs. I don't smoke marijuana, which here in Colorado, um, marijuana, mushrooms, stuff like that. It's rather plentiful. Um, so that reality, okay, that just helps to kind of ground me, at least in, present thought, as opposed to diluting it and putting myself on some other ethereal plane of existence. But the reality is, I have a background in gymnastics, and the I guess the honest answer is that there was an expedited retirement from the sport when I broke both feet simultaneously. That was kind of a rough one. Would not recommend doing that. There's still elements within the practice. It's a very technical sport. I love doing handstands on a regular basis, training those almost every single day. I call it inversion therapy, just literally being upside down. I think it's just good for the body. But outside of that, I lift weights. I eat very, very carefully. I'm following both a FODMAP diet and a very high protein diet, relatively very low fat, and essentially no sweets. So that's really mostly to keep myself and train for both, being on screen, being on the runway, whatever that turns into. Lifting weights, I just kind of break it down by muscle groups and go by the day and train what I can when I can, but I try to move very carefully, very slowly. And that's it. You talked about patience and the patience of getting one repetition in very well, very cleanly. I value that over just one quick, messy, like, ugh, I got to fight through this kind of thing. So, your thought process, your ethos is very interesting because it can translate in numerous different instances in life. So yeah, I mean, that's the general gist, but I have to move to just maintain sanity. That's it.
Awesome, man.
What about yourself?
This is so beautiful.
How do you train?
Yeah. Well, I just lift.
You lift?
Can you repeat? Yeah,
Yeah,
I've got a weight. Yeah, I've got a weight inside, so I just lift it. Yeah, every morning, sometimes in the afternoon, and I've been trying to be consistent. Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. But your approach is really, really effective, and I think I'm gonna steal it.
It works. I'm not saying it's fun
Man.
or anything like that. The dieting is easily the hardest part of it. So if you like food, I don't recommend doing it. That's a very simple answer.
Oh boy. Thank you, man. Okay. So we have two more to go. All right. So let us talk about adoption. Okay. So what has open adoption taught you about connection and identity?
You are full of some of the best questions that I've heard in a very long time. So I have to thank you for that. Adoption it's a very interesting thing. I was adopted at birth, and one would actually potentially tie together the notion of a lack of self-identity through adoption when one is removed from the biological parent. That just opens up a whole host of interesting stuff. Excuse me. And there's a lot of data and science to back that up with. So mind you, anything that I'd say from here on, this is not me playing a victim card. The reality is the family that adopted me, my parents, Liz and John Asperger, they gave me the entire foundation of my life. And now what that foundation includes is opportunity. They sent me through college. They put me through different sports. That's how I figured out gymnastics. So opportunity to travel, to make great friends, to have a very comfortable lifestyle. I was very blessed and still am. And that opportunity to go through these different experiences, whether or not I was particularly good at it, is, that's a question itself. But these different experiences, I believe that the human is crafted through the experiences that they encounter throughout their life, whatever it may be. And broadly speaking, that's how people figure out who they are. So because of the experiences, the opportunities that I was afforded based on the family that adopted me, I mean, that itself is what I'm blessed to say has carved me into the individual that I am. And that's to say I'm far from perfect by any means, but blessed to be able to discern what I like, what I don't like, and how to perform in different instances in the world and situations and with all kinds of people, really. But the exciting aspect is, all right, what open adoption, this ability to say from the very get-go, you were adopted, and Amy and Chip are your parents, your biological parents. And so to give you the context here, both Amy and Chip, they split when I was born, essentially. So now each of them have their own family clusters. So I have 6 half siblings, except I myself, in the family that adopted me, I grew up an only child. So there's an interesting sort of duality, this understanding of, all right, well, I have this understanding of what it's like to grow up an only child. to navigate the world as such, but I also know what it's like to have siblings because I do, and I'm in touch with all of them. I can text any of them right now and probably get a response before we're done with this podcast.
No.
Likewise with my biological parents, because when I was in college, so I went to school in Ohio. Now, my birth mom lived in Ohio as well, probably about like a 2.5 hour drive to get to each other. So we'd have lunch maybe annually, get together, see each other. And she put it very plainly one year. And I find supreme beauty in simplicity, whether it's design, architecture, the way that somebody simply communicates an idea or concept. And so what she says is, there's not a single contract written in the world that says through adoption or the nature of this arrangement that we have to love you. We just do. It's that simple. We choose to. Love is something that you can opt in freely and opt out of the moment that you wish to, quite simply. And family is often spelled with a capital F because it has such complexity and nuance to it that in the family that I'm a part of, the Asperger family, there are relationships where there are estranged relationships between the fathers and sons. I'm not saying across the board, but with one or two instances in particular that I've seen from a very early age. And I determined I don't want this in my life. And so this led me to saying, all right, well, I know I don't want that. And I know that I want to build at least a relationship that I'm really quite proud of with everybody that I can possibly, that I have had the ability, the blessing, the pleasure of calling family. It's a very long answer. I'm not quite sure that I answered your exact question. Those are some
You
of the
did, my man. And thank you for taking your time to explain it that way. You've just opened my eyes to something beautiful. Yeah, you've shifted my perspective. That's an amazing one. So I'm going to take that as a final thought. So for folks who would like to reach out to you, Kyle, and learn more about the beautiful stuff that you're doing, or even ask you questions, how can that be possible?
I urge anybody, reach out, drop me a line. Probably the easiest way to say hi. On Instagram, I'm Kyle Asperger 301, and that's ASPERGER. The quick context is the 301. That's the home address that I was adopted into. So that is a very core part of my human. If you'd like to shoot me an email, I encourage you to do so as well. It is anarchyday@gmail.com. And typically, I'm very responsive on all platforms. Give me a follow, drop me a line, say hi.
Beautiful. So that's going to be the end of the show, my man. Thank you for coming and thank you for sharing this wonderful stuff with us. It means a whole lot. Thank you, Kyle.
Elisha, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.